Okay, a few clarifications. Remember, this is the first time I've looked at this really. I read the rules last night and I skimmed them again today before I started the first video, but I found a couple of interesting things just starting the setup. First of all the initial auctions, this isn't done how I'm used to, where you're putting bids on cards in place. Instead, each one is auctioned individually, which I'm not sure how easy that's going to be for me to do solo. I mean, I can do it, but everybody's involved in every auction. Likewise with that Nikolaev Railway, that gets auctioned, but that's always going to be the case with the miners. The second thing is that the corporations can't even be floated until the 4 trains are out. So you have to play with those miners only and the privates until then. That's very different as well. That's an interesting restriction. A third one is it only takes the president's share to float a company. You buy the presidency, the company exists. The cash goes into the company treasury, as do all the shares that are unsold. And then selling them brings them back into the treasury. During your operating round, and this is the fourth thing, yeah, I missed a lot, but I knew there were some weird things that I wasn't catching. The fourth thing is, during an operating round, the company can buy whatever it likes out of the bank pool. Now, of its own stock. It can redeem its own shares. Now, it makes interest off the shares it redeems. I don't believe, I'll have to look at this, but I don't believe there's a sold out bonus in this game. I see no indication of such yet. If a corporation is completely sold out, I don't think that raises the value of it on the stock chart. Again, very, very different little changes for me, which may be familiar to those who've played, 37 or 41. Those have not been available. Those weren't available through sort of the mainstream. And to me, this is really the first non-mainstream XX that I've played, other than a couple print and plays. It definitely shows me that there's some very different feels and different designs out there. I knew that 1853, with its that's the Indian one that I'm thinking of. I may be getting the number wrong. Was very, very different from these. Most of them have felt much closer to 1830 than this feels. This has an 1830-like track, as I pointed out, and it felt at first like I was looking at a 35 type, a progression from 35, but it's looking very different in a lot of ways. So there may have been some real divergences there. Obviously 1829 was very different with its flat stock track. Alright, okay, so the initial stock round is over, and I don't know what to think. I mean, I obviously don't know what I was doing. I don't know whether it was good, bad, whatever. Some of the private companies went for higher than I would have wanted, I think. See, I look at them and they generate invariably 50% of their minimum bid in revenue each operating round. They generate no stock value, however. Most of them have a bonus. The bonus is pretty much limited to a city where they have a plus to the revenue of that city for whatever company holds them. That could be valuable, that couldn't. That could be valuable, or if not taken advantage of, might not. Everybody directed what minor companies they bought based on their privates for the most part. The first one, the Moscow Nizhny Novgorod, always the first one, starts out with track already built out to St. Petersburg. That looked really, really valuable. So that actually went for $140, giving it a starting share value of $70 per share if it converts. Oh, there's something yet another little thing I forgot. This yellow line. So the reason that that's not a big deal, and not weird, is that when miner companies hit that, they can't go beyond it to the right. They start crawling up it. So they eventually will get to a point where they just don't gain money if they don't convert to a corporation. On the other hand, it's also not something where, oh, I gotta do this turn, or I gotta half swallow to stay in place so that I have that option. You have that option as soon as your miner gets valuable enough. Alright, so who else do we have? Well, this guy picked up a combination with the Moscow Kursk and a bonus for Moscow. Moscow Kursk is down here, and we'll be able to hit something and make money right away, unlike this other Moscow rail. But although they're only 2 away, and in 18XX 2 away on the floating turn is fine. They have no rail. They have no trains on them yet. But it's a little further to start making real money off that. So that's a less. This is a less valuable option than whatever the M and N. What is that? I don't know where I put that one. Oh no, that's the Moscow Nizhny Novgorod. I'm sorry, that's the one the first guy got. The Nikolaev, that's the first one that had to be auctioned, went to an owner of Moscow, and that was the one that went for 140. These other 2 Moscow ones, the MK and MNN, the MNN went, I guess, for 120, and as did the MK. The player who got no private whatsoever, you only start with $210 in the 6-player game, which means if you buy a private, you only get 1 miner. So he was able to get 2 miners, which I think is going to be actually a killer position. And I think the people who bid on miners were silly, or on privates were silly. I think the miners are just better, from my knowledge of 1835. Of course, if you don't bid on the privates, so this is the way I used to play 1830 until we learned otherwise. If no one will bid on a single private, it doesn't matter which one it is, first, last, whatever, it's offered again $5 less. So I think maybe bidding on the privates is a bad idea in general, but we'll see. I think the Moscow ones might be really, really valuable because Moscow's an important city in the game. So anyway, he picked up 2 Kiev railways down here, and one of them started at 55 and one of them at 50, i.e. 100 and 110 bucks. This Odessa, I think that's one of the least valuable, maybe the least valuable of the starting private companies, and I think he probably paid too much for it because he is 75 bucks. So he paid, well, I think he paid 35. So he paid a little over the minimum bid, but less than the face value. Face value is the most you can sell it for to a corporation. So this isn't like in 1830 where you can dump those privates for twice their value or something like that. That's the limit you can sell. And he also picked up, what is this? The Odessa-Kiev Railway. Because he's got the bonus in Odessa, makes it a little more valuable. Odessa's a Y space, which means it starts out at 30, so he has a 40 space. That's about equivalent to Moscow without a bonus. And he was able to start the company for 50 a share or $100. Owner of the other Moscow railway had the Nikolaev. That's a good combination. I don't know how much he paid. Let's see. He put 140 into the Nikolaev. That means he paid about 65 for this railway. So he's put a lot of cash into his starting company setup, but he's got a good combination, I think. Now, here's one other difference from a lot of games, but not the 18AL, I believe. You don't have to run through. You can ignore the small cities, the blinker doinkers, as we used to call them. I think one of those little twists that says, okay, those things screw you so much. If you want them, you can have them, but you don't have to. And it kind of makes sense because collecting those, it just makes sense to be able to ignore a city. But you can't ignore a large city no matter what. You have to actually service those. And then the final player picked up the Poland bonus, and he got the St. Petersburg-Warsaw. Now, the St. Petersburg-Warsaw he got at 60 a share, $120. 130. That means he spent 80 on the private. So he also spent a lot, but he's got a really nice setup. With Poland going up to a 40 initially, and St. Petersburg at a 40. I think that's really potent. I believe, I haven't looked this up, that you can't loop from one city to another in the same tile. From one city space to another in the same tile. I remember there being something that led me to think that. So I have to keep an eye on that. Alright. So I guess we're set up and ready to roll, and I'm almost out of video here for this one. I mean, I could keep going and going and going, but I think this is a good place to stop this video and put up another one. I know I babble forever.